Good morning, everyone. Myself, Renu, and I work for Microsoft as part of Commercial Software Engineering Group. And here we work closely with the customer to solve their business issues. And today's talk, as we are focused on the Kubernetes, that we are going to talk about how you can have your iterative development with when you are going to host your application on Kubernetes. So let me quickly share my screen. So today's talk is how you can have iterative development in Kubernetes without using any extra assert. Like, can you have something pre-built in your IDE so that it's quite easy for you to just focus on your business logic development apart from taking care of all other stuff. Like, if I talk about being a developer, so what generally my expectation is, my first expectation is about, can I have fast build, test and debugging cycle? Like, I just need to focus on my writing the core logic which will be there, and so if I need to debug my code for any point of time, for any reissue that I could face, so how is it easy? What if I need to do integration testing of my code? So how it is easy for me? So I need a seamless environment through which I can do this. Another is, like, in development environment, being a developer, I always need to set up all the dependencies. Like, on a big projects, when we can think there are n number of modules, so each and every module, they have different configuration, different style of deployment. First of all, as a developer, I need to set up my development environment. So as a development environment setup, I need to install n number of application, or I need to configure all the application on my local machine or in, a centralized development environment, and there I can start working on my code. But the challenge is, as frequently we move our code to staging environment or production environment, sometime our development environment is not in sync at all. And after that, how we can scale our component? For example, I'm working on a specific module A. If one of my colleague, that person has already included module B, so in ideal scenario, I just use stub and mock to go ahead. What about if I need to see, will it actually work? The code which I have written will actually work in that scenario or not? So in that cases, so we need to have that sync between all the developers. So how we can quickly get their code and check the integration. And third is, whatever we are going to use, so all the method that we are going to use, it should be very easy. Like, if I'm going to make any change in my code, it should be very seamless for other developers also. If I have put some patch in production today, it should be easy for other developer to make it sync quickly and to go beyond that. And to have that, we have different development approaches. One is like, what if I set up everything on my local environment? So if I'm going to set up everything on my local environment, then anyway I can build very fast, I can do testing, I can have multiple debugging cycles as per my need. But what about fidelity of the deployment? So any patch which is going into production, for example, today night, if something moved to production, how can I ensure that whatever I'm going to write, this is in sync with that code? So that's again a question mark when we are going with the local development. And how about the scaling of the component? If something is deployed on my production environment or the staging environment with which I need to sync, how quickly I get that configure easily on my local? That's again, we are not sure how we can do this, and it's take lot of effort from the developer side. And sometimes developer think, this is not my job, this module is not written by me, then why I need to configure this only just to run my business logics? And the last is easy to use. So development environment, no doubt it's easy to use because you have everything locally set up, but keeping other thing in mind, like how frequently you can update. Easy to use only in sense you can easily test your business logic, but how about syncing of other services? Again, it's lacking this feature. Now another development approach is, you just host everything on the remote. So you just have your staging environment or a development environment separately configure, in which whatever code that you are code change that you are going to do, you deploy it there. So now if you are going to deploy your code in the remote, then again you are not as fast as in your build, test or debug cycle, because it has external dependencies that first you need to see, okay, whether everything is in sync. So with the code which is running on my local, I first need to move that into a staging environment and see all the configuration I need to pick there. And if there is some issue, I need to come back to my code, I need to fix the issue, and then again go to deployment. So this is one part. And obviously for fidelity of the deployment, we can easily sync our staging environment with all the latest code which has been moved to production. So that quite easy, whether this is fidelity or the scaling of more component. Now coming to ease to work, again it's not so easy, because every debugging or code change that I'm doing on my local machine, it may not I need to be a bit conscious about that. First I need to build my code, I need to write my code, test my code on local machine, then package it and send it to my remote. This remote can be your Kubernetes cluster that you have built for your development. And last one is the hybrid. So hybrid, you can think of, what if you have your development machine set up, and on top of that, all the integration point, all the dependencies which is already hosted on your Kubernetes cluster. So in that sense, your local code is going to connect to Kubernetes. If you can do this, then it's quite easy for you to test and build your code with the latest changes which has been moved. And you can easily check the integration point, all the layers, all the configuration that will be basically that is required. In actual fulfilling all these external dependencies, I just need to provide like what is my Kubernetes cluster in which my application is hosted, which is the namespace which I need to use, and this particular application is my application which is on my local environment or my development machine. I need to test it. Also, I need to ensure that there should, if there is a way that other user who are actually in the production, they should not get impacted. Can I have an isolation layer in that? So there is no risk, no harm if we can have that implemented. And anyway, I can leverage the whole end-to-end workflow that can be created. If that is possible, then how we can have that? So for hybrid scenario, there is new plugin that is basically for Visual Studio Code as well as for Visual Studio 2019, that is Bridge to Kubernetes. So basically this plugin is in extension to Kubernetes parameter to your development environment, in which it will allow you to easily write and test your code, and you need not to have all the extra asset on your local machine. You need not to set up everything there. Even you need not to write any Docker file or any YAML file or any Kubernetes manifest file to host it in Kubernetes, because we being a developer, it's not possible that all the developer are well equipped with the Kubernetes command and the format that is used by Kubernetes for deployment of the code, or they may not be proficient in that. So this also provide one way so that you can easily without using any Docker file, any manifest file, you just directly go ahead, provide your Kubernetes detail, and your application should be quickly up and running. And just to let you know the concept, how actually it happens. So for example, you had an application with this bike sharing web. This is hosted in the cloud earlier. So bike application, again, this is in the cloud, and underneath it is referring to a third application, that is reservation. I'm talking about these microservices. This is not at the physical full-fledged application. These are microservices. Like bikes is my microservice, reservation again my microservice. So how it will happen in Bridge to Kubernetes scenario? So whenever you are going to hit the actual URL, it will check that a underlying component, do I need the request which is coming, is it from my development machine? Yes, this is from my development machine. And then it will check for the component for which it need to call. Then it will find the like bikes. Okay, it is going to call bikes. And then it will route the request instead of the production bikes. It will route to my local development machine. And then my local development machine again will call the cloud hosted another microservice, that is reservation. And in the same way, reverse flow will take care. So this is the high level thing that will happen behind the screen. Now let's talk about the key features. So in if we can have this environment set up using bridge to Kubernetes, then it is very simple uh, microservice deployment, because everything is independent to other in terms of how you are going to deploy it. All the configuration one time setup is done in your production environment. Now only for testing you need to take care of whatever you have written in your local. And again, easy to debug. I'll show you how you can easily debug this. And on top of that, overall development and testing, this is going to be seamless. For a demonstration, I'll take one scenario. So this is an overall architecture of one of application which is hosted on Kubernetes. So we have one front end. On top of that, we have an API gateway that is in .NET Core. And in this overall architecture, you can see we are using different languages. Like here, I have Go, and .NET Core is my reservation engine. And I have two another component, that is users and bikes, which are written in Node.js. And these users is interacting with the user database, which is my SQL. And the reservation DB, it is interacting with the Cosmos DB. In similar way, for bikes, we do have separate Cosmos DB instance. So this is the overall architecture. Imagine what if you need to modify this bikes application. So in a local environment, if you think you can set up everything, then it's quite difficult for you, because you need to install all the dependencies. First, you need to have billing, reservation engine, reservation users, everything you need to have. And on top of that, you need to have the front end application. So that you are going to have first replicated into your local. What about if you want to remove all those components, or you want to reduce all that overhead using bridge to communities, Kubernetes? How you can do this? Let me quickly share one of piece of code. Like we were talking about the bikes, which is written in Node. So this is my bikes application. There you can see most of the code is there in server.js file. And I have already put one breakpoint. I have put one breakpoint in this MongoDB collection, where it is going to connect to MongoDB to get the data that is related to the bike. So this is the breakpoint which I want to put in my code, and this microservice is bikes. I have installed one plugin into my Visual Studio Code. So that is Kubernetes, bridge for Kubernetes. Let me show you. So if you will look for bridge for Kubernetes, this is the plugin, and this is for your rapid Kubernetes development. So I have installed this. So once I have installed this, and on top of that, anyway, I'm going to interact with the Kubernetes environment. So I need to have all the Kubernetes plugins. So this is my Kubernetes plugin, which I have installed. And here you can see I am connected to one of the Kubernetes instance, which is named OSI AKS. In this, I have different namespaces. Just to get better view, let me show it from the command prompt. So let me first clear this, and so let me first list all the namespaces. These are the namespaces. If I'll try to get the applications or the services which is hosted in default, sorry, I will not get anything. Reason being, there is nothing in the default workspace. But I can see there are multiple things which is there in bike app. So if I'll switch my namespace, then you can see there are multiple services which is part of that, and one of the service is my load balancer service, and this is the external IP. And to give you feel of the UI part, so this is my application and one of the page which I have open. Let me first clear it. uh, so this is the landing page of my application. You can see a lot of cycles which are available for rent. In normal scenario, if I'll go, for example, I'm going to click on this one, and this is a bike rental. You can see this is a default image, although you can see there was some different image here, but on this page you can see it's a default image. And per hour rent is $1. I'll just go ahead and say rent a bike, and then after I'm done I will say return bike, and I'll confirm it, and I just submit. I'm back on the screen, right? So this is look and feel of the application. Let's try to change this. Like in inner side, you could see this is the default uh, image of the cycle. Let's go ahead. First, let's try to debug it without that, just to check whether actual control is coming to my application or not. So I have put this breakpoint. So what I will do in the debug, since I have installed that bridge to community, you can see this npm with Kubernetes, and I will go ahead and say run, and it will start my application. In bottom you can see I have current cluster which is selected as OSI AKS. Current namespace is bike apps, because as I showed you, if I'll select the default workspace, it's not there. I'll also show you how you can switch the namespaces. And now my application is up and running. Now I'll go back to this. Since in overall architecture I was trying to show you that you need not to change anything, on the other side you just bother about your work. So this is the same site. Okay, I will just refresh my page. I will click on this, and you can see there is nothing. Reason being, there is a breakpoint. Okay, so I will say yes to continue. I will go here. You can see the image has popped up. Now let's try to change this image with the actual data. So what I will do, I will just remove these two lines, and I will save my code, and I will stop debugging, and then let's try to run it again with the same breakpoint, and let's see whether it is taking all the changes or not. So now it's getting restarted. You can see target service port is 3000 with the detail that we were there. And if you go scroll a little bit up there, you can see all the information like your port name for your bikes, everything. You can get all the details from here. Now I will go back to UI, and I will again refresh it from home page. Yeah, and then if I'll click on this, since there is a breakpoint, I need to go there. I will say continue, and if I'll go back here, you can see the image. This is the actual image of the bike which was there on the home page. So how seamless, you can see this is for debugging. If you are going to write something on local machine, it's quite easy to modify and test whether it will work in actual scenario. So although I'm saying this is production environment, you can have similar setup done for a staging environment, which will get continuous sync for the production. Might be you can have daily sync, or twice in a day, and then you target your local machine with that staging environment. Now this demonstration was on code side. Let's see, have a look on the Visual Studio Code. So in Visual Studio Code, I have opened one app that was for the bikes helper, and this is in .NET Core. There you can see another there is a control, because I had installed bridge to Kubernetes connector here. You can easily find it in marketplace in visualstudio.com. You just download it, it will install in your Visual Studio, but only thing is it support the latest version. So if you will first time you will click on this, it will ask you for your Azure details. So I have not configured it yet. So that's why you can see it is asking for my details. I need to sign in, and for subscription, once you have signed in, it will give you all the detail about the subscription, which Kubernetes cluster you want to connect, namespace, and everything. And then you need to there is one thing that we were talking about. How about, can we have isolation between my local machine and the production machine if I'm directly hitting the production, so that the current user who are actually using the production machine should not get impacted? I can have isolation of my local version. So for that, I just need to provide a local name to my application. Here I will say just Renu at the rate, and the full URL like the same that we had here. So in this case, before writing that, starting that app, I will just write Renu at the rate, or you can use any other unique name that you think no one else is using. If you are going to do this, and you are going to start your app, then all the current requests which is flowing in the production environment, those will still go to the production. They are not going to connect with the local environment. But if you are going to hit your unique name at the rate and this URL, it will getting redirect to your local machine. So that's how you can control the overall flow between your development and the production. Although this is just release feature, this is open source, again MIT, you can just go ahead and explore. If you have any feedback, it's on GitHub, you just feel free to provide feedback on that. And yeah, there are a few limitations that one of these, since currently it is just supporting the Kubernetes, and going future, might be in couple of weeks or month, it will be getting with the mini cubes as well. That's one thing. And we are also getting up with a few other enhancement in the same plugin. As this got released last month only, in end of September, it is in GA. So we have just covered only few developer scenario that we can think of. But yeah, we can assume, like currently we are just thinking, if you are having a number of component, how to route the request. There may be another specific scenario based on your need. Like what if you need to connect to the other environment apart from Kubernetes, how you can have that seamless integration. So although this plugin is focused on the Kubernetes, but how about having other integration point, how it's seamless. And one enhancement based on that we have done is, like when you are trying to run your application which is pointing to your staging or production environment, how you can preserve your current setting which is already there. And for your local version, like in this particular check, so it will behind the screen, it will take a backup and take care of rest of the requests that will be coming. Take the backup, and once you are done with the debugging session, it will restore everything for you so that you can work as you were doing earlier. So there is no impact on your current work that you were doing. So I think in that sense it's quite efficient way for doing any kind of development if you need to host an application on Kubernetes.